Welcome to the 2020 BCAN Holiday Show. I'm your host, Allie Ray. 2020 has been a roller coaster of a year, so we're going to relive our favorite segments with your favorite hosts. Our first guest today, we're welcoming BCAN's very own food man, Tim McMahon. Tim hosts many of our favorite shows such as 401 Nosh, Inside Toledo, and the producer of Exposure. Now let's start off with BCAN's bread and butter, 401 Nosh. How has the restaurant business been in the 419 since the pandemic, Tim?
First of all, I love the bread and butter.
Did you like that? I thought that was a good little spice ad.
Yeah, a little segue into 401 Nosh. The restaurant business, like so many things this year, was hit hard. But with the pandemic starting, things really changed around mid-March, so we adjusted how we did stuff. We didn't really go into restaurants a lot because many of them were doing takeout. So I would go to Soup downtown and grab a burger, or I would visit some of my favorite local breweries in the area, like Ernest Brew Works, and stop by and grab a to-go beer to show that businesses are still open. Things are just a little bit different. We also saw the emergence of new food trucks. Chef Rob's side hustle was one of my favorites. Chef Rob Campbell, his catering business had to be shut down, so he made this food truck.
It's fun, for years I've been managing a lot of people more than cooking, so the last year or so I've been able to do a lot more cooking instead of managing people, and it's really nice to get your hands back on the food all the time. It's been great. Most of it's all been through social media, just getting the word out to those people, and they've been very supportive.
And I feel so honored because I am always behind the camera. I'm always at these 411 shoots. I really have enjoyed this year the way we had to rethink how to safely and also consistently promote different food businesses, different food business styles, and how people are just really adjusting.
Yeah, we did. It wasn't the traditional, like I said, it wasn't the traditional 401 Nosh shoots where we go to a sit-down restaurant. We have some 401 Nosh episodes coming up, which I'm excited about. We'll get to a little bit later, where we are going back to restaurants because they're trying to find safe ways to do it. But there was, the Chef's Table Dinner series at Brimhouse. You and I went to a couple of those, and they had it outside. And like I said, we had a great weather year. We had an Indian summer, so we had warm weather later in the year, and we were able to do these events, which was great to show this, food in the area and the chefs that are still doing amazing things.
And due to the pandemic, we're having to rethink the entire network. It's not just our individual shows. And just like today, last year we were all in person, we were at the Heights, but this year we're all virtual. And you started off an entire show inside Toledo virtually. How has that been doing a 100% virtual show?
Yeah, it's been a little crazy. We talked about how we were going to do this interview, before we started, and where should I sit? Should I do a backdrop? And I'm like, I'm just going to do my living room because this is how I do.
Works perfectly. I love it.
Yeah, it does. I got the dog bowls back there. I got the dogs over here. I got the camera here. So I set everything up. Inside Toledo was a show. I want to give props to Leanne Markins, who this was her brainchild, and Marcus Harrison as well, an executive producer who kind of came to me with this idea for this show. About doing a tour of people's homes. And it originally started as virtual tours of people's work areas, at-home work areas, because things changed so much when the pandemic hit. But as the year went on, it broadened a little bit. And Toledo Spirits was a great one. That's one of our favorite places. As BCAN crew, we like to go there sometimes after shoots. And it was really cool as they took me, into the basement. They're showing me how they create all their delicious spirits there at Toledo Spirits. So it's been a fun show. I don't have to leave my home, as we mentioned, which is kind of nice. And you're really relying on people in our area to know how to shoot themselves with an iPhone or a laptop, which I think is kind of fun for them because they get to be, their own camera crew, and they get to kind of see how we do stuff a little bit and how we build stories. So it's been a great show inside Toledo, and I'm excited to continue that in 2021.
Now you've been cranking out story after story, whether it's helping me with Pulse or Nosh, Inside Toledo, Exposure, just feel-good stories. What has been your favorite story you've done since the pandemic?
Ooh, boy.
I know that's a hard one.
No, that's a great question. There's so many shows that go through my head. I loved our summertime series, our staycation series was great.
Yes, I love those staycations. It was something we needed to do to get out of our homes for one. I mean, really a staycation can be made out of nothing. And I think we did a really good job at that.
Yeah, we visited downtown Sylvania. I did a little sunset kayak in Grand Rapids, which was really fun. This wasn't part of the staycation series, but you, Jordan, and I had a campfire in my backyard, and we called it the Crafty Quarantine Campfire.
Those marshmallows were amazing.
I love like the hint of graham crackers in here. You get that like chew in the back of your mouth that's like, it reminds you of like raw cookie dough. I love it.
Jim, but we're just gonna host the show. We're looking to catch the marshmallow on fire because that's really just my technique.
The perfect schmallow. Look at that gorgeous thing. Ah!
It was a way for us to try and find creative ways to connect without actually being together. The campfire saw, us in my backyard where we stayed distant, but we also did a cheese and wine party via Zoom. So, we're doing this via Zoom. So we're finding ways to connect with people without actually physically being together. And it's trying to put that positive twist on something that's been so, negative and just hard on everybody throughout the year. So I would say, yeah, those staycation series and the crafty campfires. I did some stuff in my kitchen. It's fun to just sort of let loose and be like, hey, just try whatever you can to, bring a smile to people's faces.
All right, we're up against our first break, Tim. So before we go, what's happening in January?
So I'm excited because 41 Nosh is starting a weekly series this year rather than just monthly, and it starts on January 10th. We're doing an igloo episode. We're gonna see the Heights, the Blarney, other places that are doing these igloos where people can gather and eat outside and stay warm and toasty, but stay socially distant throughout the winter. So that kicks off on January 10th at 7:30. Don't miss it.
Welcome back to the 2020 BCAN Holiday Show. We're gonna switch our tune here as our next guest needs no introduction. The host of Rise Up Live, show producer of 419 by Design, Eric Oblander. Eric, what's happening in the music scene this last year?
One of the main things that happened was that a lot of my friends, and your friends too, who are musicians especially, were hit really hard by this situation. A lot of them lost gigs because there's nowhere to play. There's nothing open. People are scared. What I started seeing was these live streams on like Facebook and stuff, and I thought, well, why don't we run those on the network? Because they're great. They're not quite studio quality, but they're cool because they're like people's living rooms or kitchens. And most musicians know how to shoot stuff correctly. So what we did was I asked these musicians to send me like a set, a half-hour-ish set of their music. And what we did was we ran it as Rise Up Live, like kind of an at-home edition, and then we put their PayPal info so people could reach out and tip them and, just learn more about them on their websites or something like that. I think it was like a cool thing. We just wanted to help somehow, and there's kind of a gray area there with musicians and artists, and the best thing we can do is just do what we do best, which is put it on our cool channel, so we did it.
I love the way that you just revamped the entire show. I helped with one of those shoots, and I'm telling you what, it was difficult to be on the floor of my living room in between a couch and a wall, trying to get that perfect angle of what I was shooting. But it was a lot of fun, and you had a lot of really great musicians on the show.
You did great on that, by the way, too. Because that was one of the first ones. And I'll tell you this, your subject, Devin, your husband, he ended up being on Rise Up as a regular person and on our Riff Academy thing. So that was all because of that.
His ego is getting so big. It's amazing to see all the local musicians continuing their craft and making the best of this situation. What are some of the favorite stories that you've done for Rise Up?
One of the ones we did was we worked with the Toledo Symphony. They had worked with this guy named Daniel Bernard Romaine, DBR, and they performed an entire list of his music, and he's like a world famous violinist and composer. He's like kind of a social activist and world renowned. So through the symphony, I got to actually like interview him for the show, even though he's not a local guy.
Artists and musicians have always led the way. You know, they speak truth to power. They are sentinels. They are storytellers and truth tellers.
And he had lots of, like advice for like musicians and the youth of today. And speaking of that, one of the cool things that we also got to do on the show this year was shine a spotlight on some of the new talent and younger talent, in some cases extremely young, because we did a story with the Toledo Symphony School of Music, and there's little teeny kids out there performing violin that I got to go cover for the show, doing right outside the glass pavilion at the museum, and that was like adorable, but also they were really great. And then there's a lot of young cool bands like Rover over the summer, and we went out to this like super secret outdoor socially distant thing we wore masks, and the whole band was wearing masks, and everyone was spread out, and they did this rock show like at a cul-de-sac. And it was so cool. It was great. And then like younger bands, a band called Equipment, who are super fun and cool, and they're kind of real plugged in. They've toured a lot, and people maybe not even know who they were. A lot of people do, but it was cool to have them on too.
Eric, it was awesome catching up with you. Before we go for our next break, tell the good people when the next season of 419 by Design is airing.
All right, so the next season of 419 by Design, the debut episode is January 5th at 7:30, and this season is crazy. It's so great. I've gone to so many amazing places. We're doing glass blowing and robotics, and there's all sorts of crazy stuff coming this season. You're gonna love it, so tune in please and check it out.
Well, you heard it right here. The newest season of 419 by Design is premiering January 5th. We're up against another break, but more BCAN holiday show coming your way after this. Welcome back to the BCAN Holiday Show. I may be biased because I co-host with Jordan Tomasi, but one of my favorite shows on the network is Trendy in Toledo. Jordan, Trendy did take a bit of a back seat when the pandemic first hit, but we've been so busy covering the amazing women-owned businesses in the last couple of months.
We have been, and I feel like the little break that we had was good because we were able to brainstorm and kind of think where we want to take Trendy and how we want to help these other organizations during this challenging time. And we've just had so much fun, especially on our BFF series.
Open up dripping as so much whipped cream. You can never go wrong with that. This is so good. There's chunks of like apple in there, and the caramel, and the vanilla ice cream. Oh my gosh, as I spill it.
So I just tried the Mayberry Affogato. So it's kind of like you're not really having a treat, you're just having coffee.
Probably one of my favorites, honestly, because we got to eat a lot of delicious food, drink amazing drinks. What was your favorite place that we went to during our BFF series?
Oh gosh, that is gonna be so hard, but I really liked the Flying Joe because that was just a pumpkin overload on everything. I enjoyed how like we could dip a few of our treats into the drinks. That was so much fun.
That was I was definitely gonna say that was one of my favorites too, but I grew up from Sylvania, I've lived there almost my whole life. And so when we checked out Mayberry, that was really fun because Mayberry, ice cream shop was never really on my radar growing up. And so it was fun to check out their, different snacks and ice cream treats that they have. And now we actually ordered our pumpkin pie from there for, the holidays this year. So it was awesome to support local and just learn more about the area.
No, I totally agree because I'm not in your neck of the woods that often, so it was really exciting for me, a Toledoan, to go out to Sylvania and just discover new places and treats. And we've been doing a little bit of more, shall I say, daring episodes lately. I think one of my favorite ones was Brick House.
Yes, that was my favorite too. We were so spontaneous with that one. I mean, one, it was just awesome that it's a woman's, own tattoo shop, and they also do makeup as well, but it felt so comfortable in there just being with all women.
Tattooing is like a super intimate thing, so I feel like the more comfortable that you are, the more that you're able to be relaxed, you're really able to like soak up that whole, like the true intimacy of the experience.
They just understand us. They know what we're going through. And the fact that we randomly got tattoos, like what?
That doesn't happen anywhere else. Like no other job you can do that.
No. I just remember we were like, all right, let's get a tattoo. And so we were just like, okay, we're doing it.
No, I love it. I love it so much. And especially it was really hard to think of these outside of the box moments and like really try to hone in on how we can still be supporting local businesses, women-owned businesses, and keep trendy. So I'm just really excited that we came out of our shell a little bit. We're more on social media and we're getting a lot of really great stories through that.
Yeah, and I feel like, our stories are a lot more in-depth than it looks like. We went to the tattoo parlor shop, but it was a story about women in art, the story behind that. It's not about just getting tattoos, it's finding, the story behind it, the depth, the history, the background. So I think that's what's been a lot of fun. And even our Bramblewood bar, that's something out of the norm for us.
We really love serving people and making the experience as special as possible and treating everybody like they're our own.
And that was so cool and interesting to find out, the backstory behind it and why they wanted to make that and create it and why it was needed in Toledo.
Couldn't agree more. And I'm really excited to see what crazy spontaneous ideas we come up with for 2021. I'm hoping that we're just gonna skyrocket and we're gonna come up with many more stories to share and more experiences.
Oh, totally. I feel like our feet are just now taking off the ground. I don't even know if that's a saying or if I just made it up, but it's a saying now, so it's fine. But I truly feel like we are just bigger and better things are coming in 2021. I feel like we've just kind of found our footing right now and getting more comfortable. And, I'm so excited to just showcase these amazing women and organizations in Toledo more with you.
So much fun on our Trendy and Toledo shoots and are very excited to show you what we have in store for 2021. Speaking of the future, it's now time to bring in our newest member to the BCAN team, Faith Atkins. We are so excited that you're part of the BCAN team. Tell us a little bit about yourself for those that may not know.
Allie, I've been in the media industry for the last 4 years. I come from a hard news background, storytelling background, but I'm really excited to be a part of the BCAN family and to be telling stories that go a little deeper into, the human side of stories, because everyone has a voice. And I'm just excited to highlight those voices throughout the Northwest Ohio community.
And it's so incredible, Faith, that you and I are going to be working side by side, making BCAN Pulse a bigger and better show than it ever has been. And you're actually going to be going a little more virtual, how we are today, and you're going to be taking over the Pulse Minute, which we're going to be launching in 2021. What exactly is Pulse Minute?
Pulse Minute is basically all the great content that you already see on BCAN Pulse, but is obviously going to be virtual. It's going to be on our social media platforms, and it's going to be the quick nuts and bolts of the stories that you already see on BCAN Pulse. I'm really excited to hop on that for 2021.
I'm so excited for 2021, working with you, Faith, and really gearing up for BCAN Pulse next season, and we can just blow this out of the water. '20 was an incredible year for all of us here at BCAN. We would like to thank you, our viewers, for watching all of our content, also the BCAN team.
No, whoa.
Hello, hi Tim. When did you come back in?
Well, I just popped back in because I happened to hear you say, that's a wrap, but we're not done yet. We have to hear about the incredible year that you had this year. Obviously, 2020 was a very difficult year, but we've been resilient, we've overcome a lot, and we've seen some changes at BCAN as we said adieu to Arts Now, but welcome to BCAN Pulse. So a big change for you this year, and congratulations to you on that.
Thank you so much. Yes, Arts Now was one of the first shows that we had on BCAN, and to say goodbye to that was bittersweet, but I'm very excited that we recently launched BCAN Pulse, and you can almost just feel how different it is on the network. It's new, it has a new look, we're getting better content, thinking of creative ways of how to give viewers what's going on in Toledo and giving them really the great stories that they deserve to hear.
What were some of your favorite stories, or maybe the stories that touched you this year? What were some of your highlights of 2020?
Only in Toledo. I mean, local landscaper Deshaun was at an all-time low because of the pandemic, and someone thought that it was okay to make a meme out of his hardships. A worldwide known videographer, Dan, he just saw it on Blackout Tuesday and was like, I need to make a documentary out of this. And they went with a GoFundMe page, and that led to Deshaun being able to raise enough money to revamp his landscaping business.
It's amazing, you know, something I would never think would ever happen. It was almost like I was living a dream. But of course, I know that I put the hard work and the sweat and blood into it.
It was inspiring. It was, you know, being there was, this guy deserves it. This guy deserves a break. This guy, you know, needs he needs that video. He needs that GoFundMe.
And to be able to go deeper into a story like that, how the great people of Toledo have come together for an individual that they don't even know, but they could know. I think that's really what BCAN Pulse is all about, getting all these amazing stories and getting people together.
And really showing what makes Toledo and Northwest Ohio great. Another story that was great was your photography series for Toledo's Pride.
Oh my goodness, yes.
Yeah, that won you a Touchstone Award, your very first Touchstone Award, so congratulations to
Thank you.
That was obviously well-deserved award.
I just can't believe how much that story blew up. A Toledo native, Eric Perez de Tagle's photography series, Toledo's Pride, came out during Pride Month, and it really showcased a deeper narrative for the LGBTQIA+ community.
It's important to mention the meaning behind the title of this series, Toledo's Pride. It references, of course, the pride folks within this community have for themselves, but it also sheds light on the pride and beliefs that cause many in the larger community to reject and even fear these people. It's important to understand this as you look through the images and read through the stories, that it's Toledo's pride that has given rise to necessary change, but it's also Toledo's pride that's prevented growth within the LGBTQIA+ community here in Toledo.
And I want to commend you too, because you've done so much with Pride organization and the LGBTQIA+ community here in Toledo, not only this year, but really since you started at BCAN, always doing stories. It was the Mom's Hug, was that in 2019?
Yeah, that was the last Pride that we had in person.
And to all the other kids that don't have supportive moms, hugs are important. Everybody should be loved and hugged by a mom. If they're not getting it from their own mom or from someone who loves them, other people love them too.
That was such an incredible story, and I think it's so important to highlight the support. I think that's the number one thing, is all these stories I try to do is in a way to show what support our community really holds for one another, and I think that's so important, especially now when we're really isolated. We're not feeling like we're getting a lot of that support, and so to get that support, even virtually, I think is really important.
You know, I think that's what I love about working at BCAN the most. It's not the attention that I get necessarily, but it's the attention that I can give to nonprofits and organizations to bring light to them in their community. That's really what BCAN's all about. We get the fun part of telling these stories and having our face all over the place and on billboards and things like that, but they're really the stars, and we're just sort of the vessel to tell that story, and you do that so great. So many stories. I mean, you're doing 4 stories a week throughout the entire year.
Yes.
I know it's exhausting, it's hard work, but it pays off, and you do a great job, so I just want to commend you on all the work that you do at BCAN.
Well, Tim, I am more than delighted to see that you've popped back in and given a little spotlight on me. I mean, I won't steer away from it. But 2020 has been, it's been a challenging year, but also an incredible year. And especially for the network, the stories that came about of 2020 was, I gotta say that we are really lucky that we're able to have this platform to share for everybody else, and that, like you said, we're more behind the camera, but it's nice to be on a billboard and whatnot, but to be able to be behind the camera and let the city of Toledo tell its story is what makes BCAN incredible. And on that note, am I able to wrap up the show now?
You can wrap up the show. We'll just say that we hope to continue to unite 419 in 2021 and keep this area growing and keep it positive.